The standard of living is collapsing in Canada, and even the central planners are now starting to admit it.
Our standard of living as a country, Canadians, is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been.
It's becoming the norm now that Canadians are visiting food banks. This is literally a depression. Just take a listen to this headline here.
To some other news this morning, a concerning new report from Food Banks Canada says increased levels of poverty and hunger are becoming normalized in this country. Food bank visits continue to rise across Canada, reaching nearly 2.2 monthly visits. That's double the number from 2019.
Double the number from 2019. But don't worry, everybody. The economy is doing great. It's absolutely fine. So Toronto food bank use keeps hitting new records faster than ever before. More than 4.1 million people visited a food bank in Toronto between March 2024 and April 2025. That is just a sign of a world-class city. I mean, come on, that is a sign of how great the economy is. Surely, this is a world-class city. Toronto is not a shithole. There are not millions in a depression in Toronto, but there are 4.1 million visits. Just think about that. Absolutely crazy. And this is the chart, guys. Just take a look at this. So you got the pandemic here as Ben put on X, and then it just explodes after that, because you know what is really good? Stimulus. Stimulus will fix all the problems that were created during the pandemic. Do you remember when these clowns said that? They came onto television and they said, you know what we'll do? We'll be there for you. We're going to have your back. Do you remember that?
I want you to know that we're here for you.
They still say the same shit now about tariffs, and it didn't work then, and guess what? It's not working now either. So it's absolutely insane. And whilst that goes on, guess what? The government is spending $51,000 per month on alcohol expenses. I mean, this is just absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, it almost seems like a fake story, apart from it's not. It's exactly what we should expect from this corrupt government. And really, the shocking statistics are these food bank numbers. 4.1 million visits made from March 2024 and April 2025, an increase of hundreds of thousands from the year before. It took 38 years to get to 1 million visits, 2 years to get to 2 million, and a year to get to 3. So just look at the growth. Again, you have to go back to this chart because it's absolutely mind-blowing. The explosion in poverty in Canada can be linked directly to the pandemic. Also, the explosion of immigration and the fact that there was no way that Canada could absorb that kind of immigration. The economy just was not there to support those levels of immigration. So, of course, a lot of people, they don't have jobs. They're getting tossed right into that depression. And it's as I've explained many times on this channel, the people who are losing their jobs, they're going out into that depression. The recession is for everybody else. But if you don't have a job, it's a depression, and that is the sad reality. And then take a listen to this video, because again, it just shows what's going on in the labor market.
You know, the economy is cooked when these days, in order to scam people, scammers are pretending to be jobs. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
You know, back in the days, it used to be, oh, you just won the lottery, or you won this amount of money, or you won a free phone. But now it's jobs.
So there you go. And that's showing you exactly where the desperation is. If people are desperate to find a job, then that means that they're open, more likely to being scammed, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. And that is kind of showing you where the economy is. People aren't gambling because they can't even find a job. It's just absolutely insane. But guess what, guys? The central planners last week, when they met and, you know, they cut interest rates because the economy is booming. It's doing really, really well, as Mark Carney keeps telling you.
Our economy is very strong.
So the economy is doing so good that they come out and finally, after 3 years, we've been talking about this standard of living collapse for 3 years, but finally, the snails at the Bank of Canada have caught up. And take a listen to this.
Increased trade friction with the United States means all that works less efficiently. And unfortunately, you know, what that means is that unless something else changes, our incomes will be lower than they otherwise would have been. They'll grow, but they'll grow along a lower, you know, this was the old path.
Standard of living less.
It's a new path, which is below the old path. There are things the country can do to try to bend that curve up, but those aren't things monetary policy can do. These are more structural changes. I mean, fundamentally, as a senior deputy governor has hammered many times, we need to get our productivity growth up.
Productivity emergency.
And if we can do that as a country, we can bend that curve up.
That's not happening.
I mean, I think what's most concerning is that unless we change some other things, our standard of living as a country, Canadians, is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been.
So that really shows you, and you can tell that he's struggling to get those words out there. And what does that say about the new government? I mean, people keep electing the status quo, expecting a different result. It's like I put on X. That's just not the case. You can't just go around in this circle until people start to wake up and realize change isn't just the same parties that have been elected for the past 2 decades that caused these bubbles and just so happened to say, oh no, it was before this time, before we were in power, that things started getting bad. You need to realize that we need something drastically different in order to change it, like a melee, which you're just really not going to get in Canada because people are just far too manipulated by the media. But gradually that is starting to change, which is a good thing. And even the mainstream media is finally starting to prepare people for layoffs. Guess what? Amid economic uncertainty and a tariff trade war. I mean, again, you have to look at this chart here because this is unemployment and it's from Trading Economics. It's over the past 3 years. And you can clearly see where that arrow is. That's when the tariffs started in 2025, around February 2025. Unemployment has definitely gone up since then, obviously. But really, if you look at the past 3 years, it's still, just been this trend of higher unemployment. So to say this is all about tariffs, again, this is just basically showing how dumb people are if they blindly accept that truth, because it's not a truth. It's an utter lie that they're being told by the mainstream media, but it's what you hear time and time again. And guess what? For most people, unfortunately, they don't realize if something's repeated enough times to them, it'll eventually start sinking in because they don't question it. People don't have time. They're working 2 jobs for sake just to pay the bills. Even if they can afford food, they might be heading to the food bank as well. So it's crazy. So amid economic uncertainty, a tariff trade war, and the growing emergence of artificial intelligence.
No, that person right there, that person over there is not real.
We're going to get onto that in a second because that is another BS narrative. Do you remember back in the pandemic when they used to blame everything on the pandemic? Well, now it's going from tariffs now to AI. There's always something to blame, but it's never the economy. It's never the companies are actually struggling because of over-regulation. I mean, even in the United States with all the tariffs, that is ridiculous. The amount of red tape and regulation that companies have to deal with. I know a lawyer in the United States, and he said the amount of work that they have to do since the tariffs is completely insane. So a lot more money is going towards lawyers. Do you think that's really the greatest thing for the economy? Do you think that's the greatest thing for growing businesses? I don't think so. So layoffs can catch people by surprise, but there are usually signs along the way that they may be coming. The phasing out of some jobs is not always going to be clear-cut, according to a career expert, Angela Champ. In an interview with CTV Your Morning, she shared common signs a worker may notice ahead of restructuring. Your leader may say things like, we're realigning resources, or we're streamlining operations. And then this was posted by Danielle Foch on X. A young couple are being denied access to their home with 0 options. So, I mean, people buy homes in Ontario, but do they actually really own it? Because listen to this. I want to bring attention to this matter. I recently witnessed that I feel is one of the worst injustices ever carried out regarding a landlord and property rights in Ontario. A young couple recently purchased a semi-detached home to live in and are being denied the right to live in their home by the provincial government. The home is currently being occupied by a tenant, and the Ontario Tenant Board Tribunal has ruled that this couple may not remove the tenant even for their own habitation of the property. So it's absolutely crazy. This story, once once again. Like, do you really want to risk buying a property? Because do you really own it with what's going on with the land rights dispute that's going on in BC? And then the fact if you're in Ontario and then you rent that out, you might as well be giving that away. You don't own that anymore because the tenant can just stay in there indefinitely. So it's absolutely crazy. And then Danielle Foch also posted this, and we're going to go through this TD report in another video, Canadian productivity growth. And this is what it's been like from 2019 to 2023. So we just talked about what the Bank of Canada was talking about with productivity.
We need to get our productivity growth up.
Productivity emergency.
And if we can do that as a country, we can bend that curve up.
Being so low and needing to do something about that in order to get the standard of living up. Well, look what has happened. And, you know, this goes all the way back to 1989. It comes from a TD Bank report. And again, it's just showing how drastically this has fallen over time. And it just shows the complete depression which is going on right now. And if we go back to this, the clip where people can't afford food, just take a listen to some of the comments here. 10 years ago, there were 1 million visits to the Canadian food banks per year. It is projected to increase to 32 million a year by 2030. I mean, that is a sign that Mark Carney is doing a fantastic job. The economy is booming right now. I mean, come on.
Our economy is very strong.
Name a year where people said, wow, food is cheap. That is a good one. Can you name a year? Because I certainly can't. Now I look back at 2016 and I'm like, damn, those food prices were cheap. And I was complaining about them back then. Meanwhile, we keep laying off thousands, and we're going to get into that as well. You are missing that a lot of this is culture. We have groups of people that feel no shame going to a food bank while driving their BMWs to get there. Totally right. And we've said that before on this channel. There is a lot of people that are earning a lot of money, over $100,000, and they go to a food bank. And really, that is being abused. You've got a lot of abuse of the food banks. And obviously, that's going to increase naturally when you have so many people that are now going, when you have increases in visits that are going up so much every single year. Of course, you're going to get more people abusing the system, but I don't feel like food banks are doing enough to really prevent that. And I know it's sad, but there needs to be some sort of means testing in place, because otherwise people are donating to that, and they might think, well, I'm not going to donate to the food bank anymore because I don't want to donate to some realtor who's got 3 properties and now can't afford their groceries just because they over leveraged themselves. I mean, that is the reality, but some people don't realize they're taking that food from somebody else, and they've got no shame in doing shit like that, which I think is totally wrong. And then you've got UPS last week. They cut 48,000 jobs. Really, really interesting and obviously terrible news. Massive global company. And obviously, if they're cutting jobs, that's not a good thing. And this is frontline operations too. So UPS on Tuesday said it had to cut 48,000 positions in the first 9 months of 2025. That must be because the US economy, the Canadian economy, the global economy is on fire. I mean, it's just so great since Donald Trump got in. He just made everything just infinitely better. I mean, I don't understand how some people just believe that. And I really don't give a shit about politics in the United States, like Democrats, Republicans. I don't care. I just see the economy the way it is. But take a listen to this. The Atlanta-based company said the reductions comprised of 14,000 roles primarily in management, alongside around 34,000 cuts within its operational workforce employees involved in its day-to-day logistics and delivery services. So there you go. They're cutting frontline people. And if you look here, it says UPS said the layoffs were part of a broader effort to cut costs and reshape the company to better adapt to shifting market dynamics. I mean, this just sounds like CEO speak for the economy is shit, and that's why we're cutting staff. And then it says here, UPS disclosed the layoffs following the release of its third quarter earnings, which showed consolidated revenue of $21.4 billion, but that was down from $22.2 billion. So again, this is kind of showing you what's going on. The slowing of goods through the economy is never a good sign. And clearly you can even see, if you just exclude AI, then the US economy would be in recession as as well. And you've also had Amazon that is laying off thousands of people. But this really is a different story to what's being reported in the mainstream media, although here they reported it correctly. But take a listen to this, because this is really what the layoffs at Amazon are to do with. It's to do with the circular Ponzi financing that is now going on in the AI bubble. Take a listen to this.
Amazon laid off 30,000 people today. The narrative is that this is about AI replacing jobs. The reality is very different, and I want to be really precise about it because it gets at corporate structure and finance and not really at AI in the way you think. So when people think AI layoffs, they think the robots are doing the jobs now.
Exactly.
And therefore, we are having layoffs. No. The people who are doing the jobs are more stressed if they're still at Amazon, but the AI automation story isn't actually hitting those jobs. What is hitting those jobs and is related to AI is the cost of chips. So NVIDIA sells chips to everyone, GPUs. Those chips are how we power AI, and none of the major cloud providers can get enough chips right now. Microsoft can't, Google can't. Google's in an easier spot. They have TPUs, and Amazon definitely can't. In fact, people don't know this, but AWS has a roughly 25% burning backlog on GPUs. In other words, they are missing out on revenue because companies are begging for more compute from AWS that they can't fulfill because they can't buy GPUs because they only had so much budgeted to buy GPUs. And so yes, the layoffs are related to AI, but in this case, it is burning corporate demand for GPU chips that is hitting the capital expenditure budget of Amazon so hard.
There you go. So basically all these GPUs are costing so much money and the demand is so high right now because of this AI bubble, which by the way, nobody has any idea how they're going to make money out of AI yet, but they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars into AI.
Your chicken's looking nice, pal.
Woo! No, he stole my chicken! And all this investing into AI, into chip makers like NVIDIA, which by the way have surpassed 2 times the size of Canada's GDP. And this all goes round in a circle, right? It all works until it doesn't work and something breaks and then the whole bubble just implodes on itself. So yes, this bubble is just going to keep going on and on and on until it finally doesn't, just like the housing bubble in Canada. These Canadians are turning to food banks for help. Take a listen to this for a sec.
Well, a concerning new report from Food Banks Canada says increased levels of poverty and hunger are becoming normalized in Canada.
The 2025...
There you go, folks. Increased levels of hunger, people going to the food banks more. This is just the norm now. It is becoming normalized because Canada is in a depression. That is what the mainstream media doesn't want to tell you. The mainstream media doesn't want to tell you that Canada is in a depression and the standard of living is collapsing. The Bank of Canada is finally catching up on that, but it's something that we've been saying all along here. And if you want more insights like this, then please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you've enjoyed this video, I would highly recommend you check out this video here. And if you're looking for a VPN and you also want to help out supporting my work, then go to ExpressVPN, expressvpn.com/marketmania. I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.